So after their crash landing in the tiny Bronco was magically transformed into a seafaring craft. I'm not going to nitpick it. It was actually probably far worse what they did in the original PlayStation version, where the propellers magically just pulled it along. But it feels like they didn't want to have these broken, stubby wings on it, so they had it fixed up just a little bit there. So you make your way back to Costa del Sol in the tiny Bronco, and they have some banter and stuff like that. Really isn't all that important, other than that you are looking for a keystone, which was originally in a museum but is now still in the possession, I should say, of Dio. He just went from the curator of the museum to the, I guess, manager of the Gold Saucer. So you go to Costa del Sol, the closest port from where you crashed, in order to get to the Gold Saucer. Now, for me personally, I didn't go straight to Dio or actively look for him. I wanted to get the chocobo race out of the way. One, there's some rewards attached to all of these, and they unlock more chocobo races, which leads to some items that are actually very useful, and some of them were key to the build I used to beat it on hard, along with a lot of the simulations and Musclehead Coliseum bouts as well. Now, this was actually surprisingly easy as well. I expected a jump in difficulty. Yes, that happened, but it wasn't hard just to win all three races. I mean, the AI kept getting stuck on the various obstacles they did put in the racetrack, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them are those damn cactuar doors. I mean, they can make or break a whole entire race, but I'm pretty sure they were messing up the AI all the time. The weird thing is, if you're right behind them, they'll instantly maneuver around obstacles like it was nothing, even though you can't even maneuver nearly that fast, but for whatever reason they can. And aside from this whole entire winning the race and getting rewards that have some really nice items that you could use for some really nice builds, they have this sort of subplot with Billy. I've already forgotten his name, and I honestly just don't care. Where you sort of win the race so that Chocobo Sam would tell him about his parents. And it turns out that his parents were into Chocobo conservation. And in order to get the cash they needed, they signed a deal with Corneo. And Corneo handed them over to Shinra, and they had experiments done on them, and they died as a result. Kind of misleading on the kid's part, not knowing the whole entire truth and just outright blaming Chocobo Sam. Again, it's kind of weird that a lot of the guys that are supposed to be bad, I mean, I guess Chocobo Sam kind of is-ish. It's kind of hard to tell because, you know, in the remake, he would bring girls to Don Corneo, but I really haven't seen him do anything else that's bad. They haven't shown or even said anything. I mean, I guess there's some implications maybe that I can't really recall or any point to that I think maybe that he's involved with some form of crime. I mean, he's in league with Don Corneo, so... Or he was, I should say. Anyways, let's get back to the main story. So when you go to the Musclehead Coliseum, it was pretty obvious he was going to be there too, mind you. You find Aerith and you see a poster where it shows Dio versus Don Corneo for naming rights. A completely added bit of story for the game, considering in the PlayStation version, you just walk up to him. It's like, oh, you have to earn it, and you go and entertain people in the Coliseum. Versus becoming the champions for Dio and fighting his chosen thugs for naming rights of the Gold Saucer, which they wanted to name to Corneo Land. I mean, I know they're trying to be intentionally corny, but this is just a little bit too far. So part of that is going to the hotel and resting, which I think I mentioned before. I like the aesthetic of it. I did find a little bit one part of it to be obnoxious, at least I would in real life. And the two smaller beds, they have like things that pop down and scare you. I knew that was gonna happen. Anyways, when you wake up to answer the door, to my surprise, they had Red 13 there. Kind of like a expansion of the dating system that they had for the first time you came through the Gold Saucer. Apparently, you can pretty much date everybody except for Kate Sith. And when I say date, it's more like hanging out in some cases, and it can get romantic. You can choose an intimate ending. I'm not sure if it applies to all the characters, or if it does, how it ends for certain characters like Nanaki or Barrett. I would have to play with the options. I didn't go that far, and I wasn't about to play the game or the section of the game 6 other times. Technically, I did it 3 other times, and I was annoyed with just that many as it was. One of them included Yuffie, which I thought was a little iffy with the intimate optional ending. Sort of wondering if it just sticks with the default regardless, because she is 17 after all. Anyways, as you go down this hallway, you can hear them say, due to the passing of their main actress, they were able to recreate her. And there's just so much wrong with that on so many different levels. Which case they're making reference to Jessie from the remake, who died. I thought she kind of lived because they showed some of her hand armor at the end credits for the remake. But I guess they either backtracked on that in this one, or maybe I was just entirely wrong about that. And then you have Nanaki there magically putting on a pair of these virtual goggles that magically fit him as well. So they start the show with this weird sort of clock slash gear sequence going on, and I guess a bit of a dance. I guess that's what it is. Let's go with yes. But anyways, I just want to wait a little bit until they show Jess here. So, yep, they use the image of a dead woman to make money. Kind of reminds me when they were doing all those holographs of celebrities. Messed up in its own right there. I mean, I guess they were just going to add a reference to all those characters throughout this game, and they do. I mean, Biggs gets the worst of it, and I'll talk about that later because I've been semi-neglecting that kind of subplot in the whole entire game. Anyways, at the end of the whole entire dance number, they have this part where you take over as Cloud to participate in the play, which they announce over the loudspeaker after the whole entire thing where they said they recreated Jesse's image. And it's another button pushing game. Yes, another one. And there's an achievement attached to it, so there's, at least for me, a compulsion to actually do that. I mean, it was relatively easy. It took me a little bit to figure out that they had this whole entire thing where the button pushes were actually somewhat laid out to the locations on the controller. You know, the triangle, square, X, circle bit there. Sometimes they do shift it around, and what I think is supposed to be X is actually circle. They do that a couple of times. So I guess Aerith is the default female counterpart, because Nanaki's the one who joined me for the play. Now there are options where you can choose Tifa and Yuffie as well, and they'll be in place of where Aerith is. Otherwise, there's no real difference. Maybe some slight differences in dialogue. And unbeknownst to me, when you get to a part, it tells you to select something for whatever reason. I always just went Nanaki and then whatever female that I had with me. Except for the last time I did it on hard. I was kind of goofing around and I selected Nanaki as the character I wanted to declare my love for. Unbeknownst to me, that's how you increase the difficulty of the whole entire button pushing thing. And then when I realized I didn't have any footage for the fight that comes after this, went back and started gathering some. You can skip this entirely if you don't want to do it. If you want to get a platinum, you do have to do it at least 3 times and earn an S rank, which kind of irritated me. Thankfully, it's more or less at the beginning of the level, and it's not that long to get through it. Unlike the remake, where you had to play through, what was it, chapter 11 and 12 3 different times? And I can't remember what other chapter it was. I know there's another one. You got to do it 3 different times, which greatly extended the length of the game, and it just wasn't enjoyable. Thankfully, if you just choose the female that you're with, or whoever, I think it's going to be, the default is always going to be Aerith, unless you choose Yuffie or Tifa in the menu, or you built that relationship up, it's going to be super easy. Anyways, this took me a lot longer than I thought it would. I try and keep it around the 10-minute mark, and I'm always missing that. I'm always trying to keep it under 15 minutes at least. And with the Musclehead Coliseum part coming up, I'm actually going to start talking about my experiences playing on hard, and I'm going to sort of do a road to platinum bit before I talk about the last little bit of the game. But I have a bit of a rant about a particular fight on hard mode coming up here, and I want to have plenty of time for that. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Have a good one.